Now we will discuss the neurobiology of affect in language learning. Using positron emission tomography, which is PET, and magnetic resonance imaging, which is MRI, in the empirical study of brain, some connections have been made between affectivity and mental processing as well as second language acquisition. We had already discussed when we were talking about aphasia and how the damaged part of the brain affect the language learning. So now these terminologies that have been used, which is PET and MRI, they have been the latest technologies that have been used by scientists and researchers to look at the brain activity, especially with the normal brain, or you can say speaker with the normal brain without any damage when he or she processes the language while reading, speaking. Now the activity can be traced down, it can be actually seen how these things take place, and especially someone with the injury in the brain, how the brain functions. So now the research or the study that are being conducted to look at this shows that there is some kind of relationship, or some kind of, you can say, some kind of relationship between affectivity and mental processing as well as second. So now we will see that how affectivity, which is your feelings and emotions, how it actually affects, or do they affect or not, and the type of effect that they leave in terms of processing a language, and language which is the second language. So let's look at some of the studies that have been done with the help of the diagram to best understand the relationship between the affectivity and the mental processing. So let's first talk about the function of amygdala in language learning. Now, John Schumann work in this area has singled out one section of temporal lobes of human brain, the amygdala, as a major player in the relationship to affect to language learning. Basically, amygdala is one of the brain centers that controls emotions and stimulations. Due to its function of control, it takes part in forming long-term memory, which is very important in second language learners. So that's the key to understand. The amygdala has been the connection to the memory, which is very important in second language learning. Losing function of amygdala in human brain might lead to some distortion or depression and anxiety. So that's the relationship one has to understand when we are talking about language learning. So according to Brown, in other words, when a teacher in foreign language class suddenly asks you to perform something that is, let's say, too complex, your reaction of fear and anxiety means that amygdala has sent neutral signals to the rest of the brain, indicating that stimulus is too novel, unpleasant, unmanageable at that moment. Then we have sustained deep learning, which is SDL, and Schumann and Wood provided further explanation of the neurobiological basis of motivation as sustained deep learning, the kind of learning that requires an extended period of time. Deep learning is an approach and an attitude to learning where the learner uses higher order cognitive skills such as the ability to analyze, synthesize, solve problems, and think metacognitively in order to construct long-term understanding. It involves the critical analysis of new ideas, linking them to already known concepts and principles so that this understanding can be used for problem solving in new unfamiliar contexts. Deep learning entails a sustained, substantial, and positive influences on the way students act, think, or feel. So now you can see the function of amygdala in language processing and the concept of STL as far as deep learning is concerned related to motivation. Research on the neurobiology of affect highlights the roles of function of amygdala in language learning and sustained deep learning as the key determinants.